Um, just got an email from a guy who came to the seminar about a year and a half ago, I think. Bought and sold 2 radiology practices. Not everybody that comes to the seminar that after the year mentoring program, in fact, a small portion of them do I keep track of, because I only know if they contact me. I don't have an ongoing active program for the kids that are out there more than after the year. And but I get emails all the time. This guy bought 2 radiology practices in Florida. And he also said he lost half his net worth because his wife left him. Or actually, he didn't say he left him, but he's divorced. I reduced my net worth by half, ex-wife. So which happens. And as I say, we have a 50% divorce rate in the seminar, roughly speaking. And as I said, most of the kids, you being the kids, have gotten married for all the wrong reasons. But I don't want to pound that to death. I read some more of the responses from your followers and from positive responses from the email and links that I sent out on social media about my experience with the Harlem schools. And but it's interesting. The kids not hearing me is more or less a no-brainer. You know, if you assume the message I have is reasonably responsible, notwithstanding the language I use. Okay. But some people find it incumbent upon themselves to find out how I may have a hidden message to talk to the Harlem kids. Now, what hidden message that could be, I'm not sure. Of course, they don't articulate the hidden message. They just say that I have one. There's some sneaky Pete thing that I'm doing, trying to infiltrate the minds of minority kids. Me being a minority myself, assholes. But anyway, us brothers. You know what I mean, Cambridge? Okay. When I say that, there's a young black man who went to Cambridge who's sitting back in the corner, so that's what I'm talking to for those of you. I'm not making fun of that. But there's some sneaky sub rosa, bullshit that I'm trying to filter into the minds of the poor kids of Harlem. I'm not going to think about it because it's not worth thinking about. But the fact that I repeated it, but that's how some people think. But with 1 or 2 exceptions, it's overwhelmingly positive. And as I said earlier this morning, I don't talk about the charitable stuff Sally and I do because I'm not looking for publicity. But this was one of the things that just happened to blow up, and so there's consequences. And for everything in life, there's choices and they have consequences. When I say you can't have a balanced life, my experience is there is no balance. And Jack Welch, arguably the greatest CEO in the last 100 years, the former CEO of GE, says there are choices in life and they all have consequences. He says it a lot nicer without using 4-letter words and calling everybody a cunt. But there are, in your own lives, some long lives like Arthur and myself, and some short lives like the kid here and the kid here, the 17 and 18-year-old. They have consequences. Even in the kids, in the teenagers' lives, they've had choices and they've got consequences. one of the comments from one of the YouTube reviews. I don't know if the review is the right word. He said, "You're right," and when you say something about maybe one parent didn't have your best interest at heart, he says, "Both of my parents went out of the way to fuck me up." So I try to give the benefit of the doubt. At least one parent, you had one parent that was trying to do the best for you. But he said, both parents went out of their way, and he didn't elaborate how they went out of their way. But I'm sure we have relatives, people we know that unfortunately both parents weren't too helpful in raising the kids. And but normally you can depend on one parent, and normally, not always, it's normally mom. It's not always, but normally it's mom that stands up to dad so he doesn't beat you more or whatever. It's normally mom. It certainly was in my case. My mother used to not very successfully try to face down my father when he gave me a beating, and I deserved every single beating I ever got. I deserved 100 times more beatings than I got, but I was only caught a fraction of the time I did bad stuff. So, I've said that. I mean, could I have taken more beatings? Yeah, I was a tough kid, but I'm glad I didn't get any more. But my dad went on the premise, if I fucked up and the nun said I fucked up, then he wasn't there. It may be 3 weeks later that he came back into town. Well, I wasn't here, but you're going to remember that. And by God, I did. I remember today. I'm 70 years old, and I still remember some of those things that happened to me. And, of course, my dad would say, as I've told you several times, look at the results. Was my method rough, tough, etc.? Yeah. Did it work? Apparently so. Although some of the kids don't think that I'm so successful because of the way I talk. And again, and I said to you guys, and I don't want to badmouth any of the luminaries, but the luminaries you guys look to, the current batch of luminaries, use bad words, but they're trying to be politically correct on YouTube. Everybody's got a camera, etc. But that's my experience. With rare exception, they use that kind of language. God rest his soul, Steve Jobs used to throw computers at people. I mean, and the movies about Steve, and I only briefly met him many, many years ago. I mean, about him are getting more accurate. I guess there's 2 or 3 movies about him now. The last one is getting more accurate, and I don't know if the full expose will ever come out. But he was a strange guy. But all those guys, Henry Ford was a strange guy, and I can't speak for Mr. Zuckerberg if he's a strange guy or not. I mean, he's a young man. I have no idea. But in time, 10, 20 years from now, we'll know exactly what kind of personality he may or may not have. Just as we now know about Henry Ford the First, etc., Tom Edison, and all these guys. But anyway, thank you for the positive comments. I appreciate it. And we'll see how that evolves. And I do plan on going, notwithstanding I may allegedly have a secret mission to speak in Harlem. I'm sure that you'll be delivered to me what my secret mission is by one of the pundits on YouTube that I'm going to go in there and poison their minds, which I find quite amusing. Anything else? Any questions that have come up? We're going to listen to Dr. Joe next, which I know you're going to be listening very carefully to him. And I'm going to make an exception that if you want to talk and meet with him in L.A., I told Joe it was all right. After the seminar, I didn't want him to talk to you before the seminar because first of all, you're close. Second of all, you're, colleagues, I guess, right? Oh yeah, he's a great guy and about the same age, similar background. He's not from the United States, which doesn't mean anything. But I mean, by the way, I'm sad to say that more dead people in Munich from the shooting. Now, guys, I'm not happy that I'm right that the world's fucked up. I don't like being right about this. But the world's fucked up. And I am here to say it's going to get worse. A lot worse. And if you think any different, I don't know. Like I say, give me what you're smoking. As long as it's not addictive, I'll do it. But the world's in a fucked up place right now. And I believe with all my heart it's because of political correctness. Because I believe with all my heart that political correctness is a manifestation of a lack of self-esteem. And I've been saying this about 20 years. And this is one of the things I wish I was dead fucking wrong on. Because I'd like my kids to grow up in a society like, most parents, notwithstanding that hard as hell on them, where they, that they don't have to deal with a lot of this shit. But that's not in the cards. That's not how it looks right now. And unfortunately, the death count's up to 10, I think it was, in Munich. And it appears, at least at first blush, not to be a terrorist, Middle Eastern terrorist. These are homegrown terrorists, it appears. That may change. Homegrown German terrorists. It's just shitty. And, of course, what's happening in France and all these places. And then, of course, in Dallas. And God, but the world is fucked up. And kids, if you think any different on YouTube, I'll be with you, but I don't know what you're thinking, what you possibly can be thinking. But, from a materialistic point of view, and I realize everybody that watches me isn't materialistic, QLA works irrespective of the marketplace. No matter what it is, where it is, it works. So if you want to create wealth and then go do good, this is the model. This is the model. And right now, it's from A to Z. It works. And they haven't outlawed it. Because we're not doing anything illegal, you'll have the benefit. And as I told you guys in here, you're not going to have much competition other than previous QLA mentees. You won't have much competition. I'm not saying it's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel, but it'll be easier, but not easy. And when we talk to Andy later on in the week, he'll tell you how he did it. And because he happens to be here, he can share his experience. And he'll tell you for himself whether he thinks it's hard or not. But staying focused isn't easy. Staying committed to one thing isn't easy. That's the son of a bitch of it. Okay? And but it's like, for those of you that have ever played golf or tennis or any sport, to get good at it, you got to practice. To get good at it, you got to practice. And QLA is no different. And in that regard, the affirmations, which we're going to write tomorrow. Last night you wrote your obituaries, right? Did we have? And we had a couple articles. Yep. Right? Okay. We'll talk about those after we get off YouTube. And I'm interested to hear what you wrote about your obituaries, because they're always. We've had guys. It was like War and Peace. War and Peace is a long book, about 1,500 pages. Some of the guys are falling asleep while he's still reading his obituary, And then I'd say, well, how much longer do we have? He's only 3 more pages. I said, okay, you wrote it. We'll listen to it. And then some of the obituaries, are, one sentence. Okay, YouTube. Thank you. We'll talk to you tonight.